So welcome everyone to the first of our monthly Coaches Corners. What we'll do is once a month, we'll get together here on a Tuesday evening and we'll talk shop. So the idea is that these Coaches Corners is an opportunity for First Nevada here to share, administrative tasks we need to do, discuss workshops, preparation for events, and to be able to answer your questions along the way. We started this last year and got a lot of positive feedback at the end of the season, so we definitely want to commit to doing this again. The general format is I'm going to try to limit myself to 1 hour of speaking. And so I put together about, I think, 40, 45 minutes of material here, knowing that, and I do invite you to ask questions. So as the Coaches Corner is going on, please feel free to type your question into the chat there. We have a number of First Nevada people here monitoring the chat. And then at the end of the period, we'll have time to open up the floor to let you ask questions as well. And I'll stop periodically at different transition points through the presentation. So again, I appreciate everyone showing up, and I do hope these help out. If you have any suggestions for topics in the future, especially from our veteran coaches, to let us know where the hanging points are during the season, I would love to hear what you would like covered in these Coaches Corners. So let me get moving here. I love this saying, and Caroline, who's on this, is actually the one who taught me this saying and remind me that everybody has to have a rookie year. And I know a lot of our coaches who are calling in tonight are rookies, and so we feel for you. We've been there. All of us at one point have to do it, and the rookie year can feel very chaotic, especially because with First Lego League, as you're going to find out, what it is that we practice, we do some workshops, but we don't really get together and compete until the end of the season. And so it's really weird that we don't get a lot of feedback along the way. And it's a different type of approach, say, versus athletics, where you compete once a week and then you go back and practice and improve and come back and do it again. With First Lego League, it's a little bit different, where we do a lot of practicing with our teams, come together occasionally for a workshop, a scrimmage, but for the most part, we don't get a chance to come together until the actual big events in December. And so my advice here right away is just hang on and really remember the goal of this season is we want you to have fun, and that's including the kids and the coaches. So we definitely want you to have fun. And also we want to make sure that you're ready and feel comfortable showing up to that event in December. And so those are our two major goals as we start this season is, one, have fun, and two, let's make sure you're comfortable and ready to compete come December. And then you'll turn into Fry here, who's now celebrating a season well done. So I realized just now that I haven't introduced myself. My name is Louis Rubo. I'm the Team Development Education Specialist. This is really the first slide with my picture on it. It was taken by another First Nevada personnel, Riley Camp. We were off at a conference there. And this kind of, I think, summarizes the way a lot of us feel as we go through the first season, that it's like drinking from a fire hose, or in this case, a very strong fountain. And you definitely can feel overwhelming. And I will say, even as a veteran coach myself, it's not only the first season, it goes on for a number of years. And my best advice is just hang in there. What will happen is as these years go by, you'll get more and more comfortable. And so what I would suggest you do is, as you come through the season, drink a little, take in what you can, and recognize there's a lot more to come. And really, you can, take as much out of this as you want. With time, it does all come together. Now, what I'm going to try to do with these monthly Coaches Corners is take all that noise, all that chatter, all those resources you hear about, and try to squeeze them down into the priority. What is the things you absolutely need to do, as well as what are kind of those key resources? Because there are a lot out there. When you Google First Lego League and First, you're going to find a lot of great resources, to the point it's like, wow, which one do I even start with? And so one of the goals I have with these Coaches Corners is to kind of bring that all into focus and say, you know what, these are the ones I really, really want you to focus on. Get through that first season, and then as you progress and become a veteran coach, you start bringing in more and more resources, and you start looking at new ideas elsewhere. But for right now, just recognize we do understand it's overwhelming. Drink what you can, and with time, you'll be able to drink more and more as the season goes on, and have fun doing it. One of the first things I want to say is everything we do here, we now have a consolidated repository for you. We have what we call a Google Drive folder, public resource folder is what we call it. We've had this in the past. This year, we've kind of made it static. So this will be the same folder year after year. What it is we have a Google Drive that we share as First Nevada personnel. We dedicated one of those folders for all of our public resources for First Lego League. And in this folder, which I have the QR code there to direct you to, we put everything that might be helpful. So we put the challenge documents in there. We put all of our presentations in there. So if you cannot make it to a coach's corner, we'll have the presentation slides that you're seeing right now in there. In fact, these ones are already posted. At the end of the session, which we are trying to record, if it works out well, and we actually do get successful recording, we'll also have that in there as well. For our workshop slides, we'll put those in there. We're also putting documents that you might reference getting ready for your competitions. So I'll put this up every time we have a coach's corner, just as a reminder that all these materials are there and ready for your use. You just dive into their folder and start poking around. We also archive some of our stuff from prior seasons that we may feel you want to reference, just because we remember as a veteran coach, oh, I remember this idea we talked about before. And so we moved inside there as a subfolder some of our older material as well. So have at it. And if you have any suggestions for things you've come across that you think other coaches would need, let me know, and I'd happily put it in there. So here's my agenda for today. It is kind of packed, and I think today's might actually be the busiest of our coaches' corners. And you will see a lot of this stuff get repeated in our workshops as well as future coaches' corner. But basically, what I want to focus on for the next 55 minutes is resources. And what are those resources you have available to you? And so I'm going to talk about the resources that are coming out of First Nevada. I'm going to talk about those resources directed at you as a coach, those team resources. I also want to speak to the challenge resources. These are must-know resources for your team to get through the season. And then I want to wrap up with the thing I want you to remember the most is what are the admin tasks that you as a coach need to be working on as we progress here in late September. And so I always want to put that kind of most important to-do list at the end of our coaches corner. We will wrap up, as I said, at the end with an open Q&A. If you have any questions as we go along, please throw them in the chat. We have people monitoring the chat. And if it's something I need to stop and talk about as a group, I will definitely make sure to do that. So yeah, here we go. So I'm going to start off talking about First Nevada resources. And these are resources that are coming from you locally. So this is the stuff that you might hear from us in person. This might be stuff you see at a workshop. Or this is the event material. So that's where I want to start off is what do you have available to you up front from a local perspective? And I want to say local because this gets kind of confusing. First, I want to introduce what First Nevada really is. We are a nonprofit organization responsible for delivering all of the FIRST programs throughout the state of Nevada. So you may have heard that First Lego League is one of a family of FIRST programs. In fact, there's kind of 4, if you will, competition type programs within the FIRST suite. There's First Lego League Explore, which is for the youngest kids. There's First Lego League Challenge, which is what I'm speaking to right now. We also have First Tech Challenge, which is our middle school / high school program. And then we have the First Robotics Competition, which is our high school exclusive program. So as a nonprofit, First Nevada is responsible for supporting our coaches, our teams, and delivering the events here within the state. We are a nonprofit organization that is largely ran by volunteers. So a lot of the people you will meet at our events, you'll email with, they are volunteers helping out. Because we're a nonprofit, we do this for the love of the game, if you will. We don't get paid extra for having more teams, but we do it because we generally have an interest in this, and you'll find out a lot of us had our own kids going through the program, and we'll speak firsthand about how much it affected us. Now, what is really confusing, and I'll touch on this a couple of times, not only in this Coach's Corner, but throughout the season, is there's really 2 firsts involved. So First Nevada, as I was talking about, is our local organization, our local nonprofit, that's responsible for delivering the challenges each season. We partner with another organization that's called Just First. We also sometimes call it Headquarters. First is responsible for developing the game itself. So when you come in, you see this year was all about the A in STEAM and the First in Show theme. That was First headquarters that put that together. They're the ones that develop the game. They're the ones that come up with all the mission models you're working with. They're the ones that define what judging will be and the rubrics involved. What we then do is partner with them to deliver that game here locally. And it can be very confusing because, as you can see on the screen here, both of us use the same logo looking feature where we have the triangle, circle, and square kind of linked together. We both have the first prominently put there in italics. But the difference there is First headquarters, we just stop there and we just call them First. Sometimes First inspires. And then you'll see the little Nevada underneath. This can be confusing because some of the resources I will talk about here shortly are provided by First headquarters, and some of the resources are provided by First Nevada. In general, as a rule of thumb, if you're thinking about the rules of the game, you're going to go to First as your main resource. If you're thinking about the events and delivery, then you'll go to First Nevada and we'll be there. Regardless, any questions you have, you're always welcome to ask us first, and we will happily answer those. And we just may point you to our own website, or we may point you to another website from First, but we are here to answer any questions about any part of First overall. Yeah. So it does take a village to deliver the First LEGO League programs here in Nevada. And I know, I don't know if Jory's on here, but Jenny Miller is our program delivery partner, which if you want to think of it as a director. So she's in charge of everything First LEGO League. Jenny, do you want to say anything? I don't know if you got your little one on your lap, maybe.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to say hello to everybody. And my baby is probably going to start screaming soon. So I want to shout this out before I need to mute and run. But I see that many of you guys are already signing up for events, and that's fantastic. But we've switched programs this year. Instead of doing the Google form, we're using Eventbrite so that you guys can confirm your enrollment. So you can see that you're enrolled in each event that you've selected. There's some growing pains. I know that some of you guys were shut out of the scrimmage, and that's on me. I apologize, but I've reopened it. So if you couldn't enroll for the Southern Nevada scrimmage, it's now reopened. And the last thing I want to say on that point is that I've noticed that some people have registered every member of the team for the event, like you're getting a ticket for everyone. And I know that's how Eventbrite typically works. But for the purposes of our events, it would be best if we just do one ticket per team instead of one ticket per person on the team. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. So Jenny is located in the southern area, and so you'll see her at a lot of events, but you'll all see a lot of her emails coming through with newsletters and information. Helping out Jenny are our two coordinators. In the north is Caroline Hansen, which I know is on here. Is a veteran of First, which we've seen at many of our events. And in the south, we have Jory, which I haven't seen him pop on quite yet. Caroline, did you want to say hi?
Sure. Hello.
All right, you're done. That's hot. No, go ahead. You can add on. Oh, I don't know if you were going to add on. I was just cutting you off.
No, I was just going to say
hi. And Jory, I don't know if you're on here. If you want to pop on and say hi, you may still be coming off work. So our coordinators, you'll see at our events, there'll be main ones running our events and also helping you with some kind of technicalities related to everything about the events up front. And you can see there, I have their emails all posted there. Again, any questions you have, you can send any of us and we'll answer them. Supporting Jenny and her crew are our team support personnel. And there I am on the left. So there's another picture of me when I was back coaching in First Tech Challenge. I'm the team development education specialist with First Nevada. So I help across all programs in terms of getting the team supported, making sure they understand the technical side and the team management side. I also work with a lot of our school districts and our institutes of higher education and a lot of our program delivery, as well as putting together our workshops. And so that's a lot of my role here. Also helping out is Scott Duncan in the north, who's our team support coordinator, a longtime veteran of First. He was with us last season. I know he's working with us right now in the chat and recording. And also Riley Camp, who's with us last year as well. We're here to support your teams. So if you have any questions about things like team management, how to code, how to build, what parts are legal, really the technical stuff, come to us. We would happily help out. We're also available to stop by the school on occasion if there's something kind of growing and might be a challenge for your team. We're available to come out on site during the day to also work with your team. Now you might be asking, which one of you should I go to? Well, we're all available. We all meet regularly. And if anything we get stuck on, we'll ask each other to answer. So really, whoever you become comfortable with, you kind of build a rapport with, you can send your emails to us and we'll help out. Our first major resource I want to share from First Nevada's perspective is, again, our job is to deliver the programs here in Nevada. And as part of that, we put together a calendar of events. Our calendar is now complete. Our events are now posted. It's on our website. So if you go to firstnevada.org and navigate to the events tab, you can use the QR code there. See, Jenny's already beat me to it. It's in the chat. This is a dynamic calendar. And I mean by dynamic is what we do is really, this is one of your first points to go to for information about events. When we get more and more information, we update this calendar so that you can get that information. So for example, in the summer, when we were just putting down dates, you will see just titles of events. And then as we found locations, we would update this calendar to include locations. Now that we're opening up registration, you would come to this calendar and you actually find your registration links. This is one of your primary resources for information about your events. Go to firstnevada.org, go to our events tab, and look at this calendar. Click on the events and you'll see information. So for example, as I'll talk about here in a few slides, when you want to sign up for future workshops, you'll just find that workshop on the calendar, click on it. The pop-up window will provide you a link to registering for that event. If anything changes or if anything needs adjusted, we put it on here first, and then our program delivery partner, Jenny, will send out emails as necessary as well. But really, for answering most of your questions, we ask you come here first, and a lot of them will get answered here. Doesn't mean it's perfect. We still are adjusting things accordingly. Sometimes venues fall through and whatnot, but this is how we push out information so it's automatic. You can subscribe to our calendar so that the information gets pushed automatically to your personal calendar. And we have instructions for it on the website just below the calendar itself. Now, as part of delivering the program, we want to support you in getting your team ready for the events. And so what we're doing now in the next few months is we're going to host a number of workshops and these coaches corners to help support you. Our workshops are really meant to be hands-on experiences with the kids in mind. We want the kids to be involved. We want them hands-on, working with the Legos, programming the robots, and really learning for themselves. During these workshops, the coaches are there more or less just to help out with their team. So as we jokingly say, we want you to help herd the cats, if you will. That doesn't mean the information isn't useful for you. Coaches are very much welcome and encouraged to participate themselves. But as we're going through our workshops, we really want to see those kids taking the lead and exploring and learning for themselves, with the coaches kind of helping out with the team management. So those workshops are in person, with the exception of one. I'll talk about that in a moment. And you'll see here in our calendar of events, we have them spread out throughout the entire what we call their build season, helping you develop that team and getting ready for the competitions in December. We also have, as you're listening to right now, our monthly coaches webinars. These are focused directly on you as the adult coach. And the only reason we're saying adult is we are talking kind of the more technical stuff, the administrative stuff. The things aren't quite as interesting to the kids. But we do this once a month just to remind you of key points you need to know getting through the season and resources available. So here is our calendar of coaches corners and workshops for this season. So we're going to do 4 coaches corners roughly once a month. We are going to take December off, as you'll find out in a minute why. So we'll have one now today in September. We'll do another one in October. We're actually going to do our November one after Thanksgiving. And the reason we push it after Thanksgiving is that it's kind of chaotic going into Thanksgiving. I also want to have that moment right before our first competitions to really highlight how to get through that competition. And then we'll have one in January setting up for the state championship. We have workshops all throughout the state. And so, yes, this year, really last year we brought in Elko as we start growing a lot of teams in the northeast part of the state. We have complimentary Reno and Las Vegas workshops as well. Immediately coming up is our Robot in a Day workshop here in Las Vegas, as well as in North in Reno. We just had the first version of our Robot in a Day last weekend. All of these workshops you see on the right are in person, with the exception of the October 10th one. That is going to be a weekday coaches only workshop. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of, if you will, have a special coaches corner where 1 hour just talking about that innovation project. And I want to say the reason we're doing this is we got a lot of feedback last year at our end of season survey that coaches really needed some more guidance and help with that innovation project. And so what we want to do is in early October, just dedicate 1 hour on an evening to go ahead and just talk about just that. It is going to be coach centric, so I am calling it a coach's clinic. We will record it if you cannot make that particular time. All of our workshops we do ask you to register for, except for that innovation project one. And again, the registration is done by going to the calendar of events and then clicking on that event. In terms of tournaments themselves, so this is what we're trying to get you to. We want every team to end up at one of our competitions because they are a blast. It is unfortunate that they're at the very end, as I was talking about earlier, but once you've done one, you are hooked. You will love first for what it is. All of our qualifying tournaments are in December, and we have them spread out over 3 weekends throughout the state. We start on December 2nd with a pair of qualifying tournaments in Reno and Las Vegas. Then the following weekend, we will have an event in Elko as well as Las Vegas again. And then our last weekend of qualifiers are on the 16th, and that will be in Carson City and Las Vegas. For those who were with us last year, you will remember in Las Vegas, we only did qualifiers. They were very large. So this year we are introducing a third one, kind of spreading it out over multiple weekends. And our team counts are kind of tracking with last year. So the qualifiers will be a little bit more intimate this coming year. We have a pair of state championships, what you might call regional championships. They're scheduled for Saturday, January 27th. A fraction of the teams that participate in the qualifying tournaments will be invited to come back and participate in those state championships. We'll talk more about that as the season progresses. And then a small number, maybe one-ish, two-ish of our teams will go then on to a World Championship event. The World Championship for first is going to be in Houston again this year, and that will be in April. As the season progresses, we'll discuss more about that, how you qualify for the next level, what each event is like. But for the moment, I just would like you to kind of get an idea of what the season calendar looks like, where we're going to do a lot of our workshops here in October and November, and then we're going to do our qualifiers in December with some teams moving on to a state championship, and then a very small number of teams moving on to a world championship. Questions about registration, I will talk about that in a moment. But just for now, this slide is really, let's get the dates out there. I'll talk about the mechanics of registering for a qualifier in a moment. Our primary means of communicating information is going to be through email. So we do have the calendar, and the calendar is for you to come to as you have questions. But our first layer of getting information to you is through email. And so what we do is we use these news blasts, which you just received one earlier this week. In that news blast will be key information. It'll be stuff like, what is the upcoming Coaches Corner going to be about? Where do we sign up for these workshops? Are there any opportunities or special that you need to know about? We will share that through email. So please, we're going to assume you're reading those emails. They have the very large First Nevada across the top with the masterpiece there identified on there. These are coming from First Nevada, as opposed to you're probably getting a lot from First headquarters at the same time. If you had to prioritize, do the First Nevada ones first. Make sure you get that information. Coaches, you are automatically added to our email list. So what we do is we go into the dashboard where you register your team, and we pull the lead coach and the secondary coach's information, and we automatically add you to our distribution list. So you do not need to do anything. Parents or other coaches or mentors are welcome to sign themselves up for our distribution list. They can just navigate to the First Nevada website. If they scroll to the very bottom, you'll see a spot where you can sign up for any of our newsletters by program there. The last bit of resource that we have coming out of First Nevada is our Facebook group. Now, I know Facebook, some of us use it, some of us don't, which is fine. If you are a user of Facebook, we invite you to come and join our private group. You will have to be accepted in, so just, there's 3 quick questions we ask you about what's your team number and what area of the state are you in. We use the Facebook group, though, just to kind of reiterate and reshare some key information. We'll send out reminders about upcoming workshops. We'll send out links again about where do you sign up for. So stuff like that we'll put on there. If you're not a Facebook user, that's okay. You're not going to lose out on any information. It's just sharing that information you're receiving through the emails as well as on the calendar. But we do put it there just a redundancy in case that maybe sometimes just reminding you or just putting that information in another location sometimes comes through. And so you're welcome to join our Facebook group. Just follow the link there, or you can do a good little quick search within Facebook for FNV FLLC, First Nevada First Lego League Challenge. All right, that was all I had to talk about with First Nevada resources. Is there any questions you have? Or for those monitoring the chat, is there anything that I should go back and re-talk about?
I think we answered everything, Rubo, but there was a question about what the content, I guess, of the robot in the day would be in the afternoon. There were some answers already in the chat, but since you're the creator of that content, if you'd like to talk about what, I guess, that would be covered, I guess, in the morning versus in the afternoon for robot in the day.
Yes. Okay, I'll jump to that. I'll go ahead and answer that now. I also have a slide about it coming up. But in short, the goal of the robot in the day is for our teams to bring a pile of Legos. So we don't want anything built. And what we'll do is we'll spend the morning hours building a robot. And everybody will more or less build the same robot. It's a very robust robot, but it's one given by Lego Education. That will be our morning hours, is we'll just build that robot as a group. The afternoon then is divided into 2 parts. The first part of the afternoon is a very quick introduction to programming. So we'll talk about taking that robot you built in the morning and let's just do some very basic programming with it. And then we'll finish the afternoon off actually taking a mission from this year's Masterpiece Challenge and having everyone try to solve that mission. And so what we'll do is we'll walk through kind of the theory of how you design a solution to the mission. We'll program that solution up and we'll go test it on a Masterpiece board. So hopefully the bookends for the Robot in a Day workshop is your team will come in with a pile of Legos, and by the end of the afternoon, they will be leaving having been able to score one of the missions from this year's challenge. So that's kind of the quick synopsis. Yeah, and yes, we will do the advanced driving base, although you do have the option to do the basic base if you like to during that day. Okay, so what I want to do is transition from the resources available to you from First Nevada to what are the kind of the resources there available to you as a coach to help you as you go through your coach meetings throughout the season. Well, when you register your team, you're going to receive a set of engineering notebooks. I believe they're still shipping out a couple of hard copies, and then they this year now published them digitally for everybody. Last year, you could only get them if you were a registered team. They are now available to you directly, publicly on the First Inspires website. These engineering notebooks are meant to be in the hands of the kids. This is kind of, if you will, a journal that documents their experiences, their successes, their failures throughout the entire season. It is a guide really for the students to go through from the very beginning here in September up until competition in December. So the engineering notebooks are really for our students to have some way to kind of collect up all their thoughts, all of their brainstorming, and all of their builds, their innovation project ideas into one location. The engineering notebooks are not a requirement. They're only there as a suggested guide, one that we would strongly recommend teams follow. You are not required to turn them in at the competition. You're not required to show them to the judges at all, but they really do help guide your team from beginning, middle to the end point. And so we really do suggest that you at least look them over, if not actually work through them throughout the season. Complementary to the engineering notebook is the team meeting guide. This is what you as a coach have in your hands. So the engineering notebooks is what the students work through. The team meeting guide is what you as a coach works through. If you will, this is your lesson plan for the meetings. And as if I'll go back a slide here, here is an example from this year's engineering notebook from pages 14 and 15, where it's talking about session number 3. As you'll see on the outside there, there's some instructions for the students with an area for them to record their ideas for that session. The team meeting guide takes that same engineering notebook pages, shrinks it down, and then surrounds it with extra information for you as a coach. So this will give you maybe links to where you might need to go. This will give you some prompts about things you might want to ask your students. It'll give you extra information to help you get through that season. You will also have received this as part of being a registered team. This year, they did make them publicly available as well. And so you should have a hard copy, and you can also get yourself a digital copy as well. Again, this is just a suggested material for our younger teams, or rookie teams, sophomore, maybe still changing out your students. It's a great resource. It really has kind of over the years honed in and being an awesome thing that all of our teams should at least be looking at some point along the way. One of the key things that the team meeting guide provides is kind of a session-by-session walkthrough of what your team should be working on during each of its team meetings. Now, do keep in mind, this material was put together by First Headquarters, not First Nevada. So it is something that's being applied to both here in Nevada, but also throughout the country and, in fact, throughout the world. So this document has to address many cultures, many locations, many different season calendars as well. So one of the things they do choose to do is they assume that your team is going to meet 12 times, about 2 hours at a time. That's just a suggestion. You do not have to follow it. You can maybe do 1 hour meetings for 24 times. Really, this is a suggested guideline of how you get from the opening of your box at the beginning of the season to competition at the end. It does a very nice job because it puts into sequence kind of some thought process of when do you build your mission models, when do you develop your innovation project, when do you set time aside for core values practice, when do you start really working on your script and your presentation skills for the competition. I do suggest you look at this, kind of use it, even if you're not going to use the 12 meeting 2 hour setup, at least look at it and see kind of the sequence of ideas and events that your team should be working on throughout the season. It also has a number of references for your team to look at. So if you're maybe stuck on how do you search for a professional that can talk about STEAM, it gives you some ideas. It also gives you some prompts to kind of get your team working on an innovation project, as well as where do you go to build those Lego mission models. So definitely suggest you kind of take a look at it, even if you're a veteran coach, to give you some ideas. First is also put together a complementary set of slides. Well, that could become a tongue twister there. First has put together a complementary set of slide presentations for you to use during your team meetings. So as I said a moment ago, they're assuming you're going to do 12 meetings. So they have 12, actually 13 sets of presentation slides, starting with the introduction, followed through by 12 sessions. These are nice because they have all the graphics built into them. They have all that prompts that you have in your team meeting guide put together into a presentation slide so that you can go into your team meetings with your projector ready, put it up on the screen, and just walk the team through your meeting directly. The whole point of these resources is really to minimize your prep time so that you can emphasize the time with the students much more. And so again, I definitely want to point you to this. These materials are available on the First LEGO League website, which I'm going to circle back to here in a little bit. But I do have the QR code there available for you as well. I do want to emphasize and remind you that all these presentation slides that I'm showing you are available in our drive. So if you're missing something or go by too fast, you'll be able to go back and circle back and get them. One sticking point that a lot of coaches don't catch to is before you dive into the team meeting guide is you have to have a robot built. It's kind of weird. It mentions it in passing very fast. So I just wanted to tell you this now. Before your first session, it does kind of assume your team has built its robot. And the philosophy behind this process is that the Spike Lego set that you will use during the Robot in a Day is only the latest iteration of the Lego Education robotics platforms. There were other ones before it that are still legal to be to use in First Lego League. So some of our more veteran teams might have an EV3 set out there. If you really want to go back, the NXTs or RCXs are still legal. So the team meeting guide didn't want to assume a particular robot for you to get through the season. So it just kind of tells you very quickly in the beginning, build a robot. And so I just want to point this out that there's nowhere in the team meeting guide that will walk you through that build. And that's where our Robot in a Day workshop is really helpful, is that we kind of give you that robot up front so that you can jump in right away into the team meeting guide. There are build instructions here for the two most common robots that our rookie teams build with. On the left, there is the basic driving base. Takes, a team less than an hour to build one of those. The one on the right is the advanced driving base. That's the one we're going to do during our Robot in a Day workshop. It's great for building as a team because it's a modular design where you can take your team and subdivide it and build parts and then pull them all together at the end. Great. Any questions about those coach-driven, coach-centric resources? Is there anything in the chat that I should circle back to? I see the chat's going nuts. It's 63 people. Wow. Nice. All right. Then what I want to do is move into a section on the challenge resources. These are the resources that you really absolutely must know about. And these are resources that are not only for you as a coach, but also for the kids themselves. So where do you get these resources? Is actually there's two locations for them. They're complementary. They're both by First, and you'll find that they're redundant in many ways. The first one is just called the Challenges, Updates, and Resources webpage from First. And on that page, as you can see there, a screenshot of the page, it lists out all the key documents that you need to know about as a team. So this will include a challenge overview. It'll have all of our updates. It'll have building instructions for the mission models. It'll have as I was just talking about, a link to the engineering notebooks, the team meeting guide, and the robot game rulebook. All of these are in one location. So this is your one-stop shopping for some of the most important, if not the must-know documents for the season. Although I couldn't fit it on here, if you were to scroll down on this website, the other really important document on here are the judging rubrics, which we'll talk about later in the season as we start preparing for the events. But your team might want to start looking at those as well. So this is a resource everyone should know about. The complimentary version is the First Lego League website. It's also put together by First in conjunction with the Lego Education Group. This one is really aimed at everybody in the world. The last one is really kind of US centric. This one is aimed at everybody out there. This one website will have everything you need to need. In fact, I go to this website first out of all of them because it's all there on one location. And if you just do firstlegoleague.org, it comes up. And I do have the QR code there. The default is to show the First Lego League Challenge program. As you can kind of see on that screen there are Discover and Explore programs. If you're involved with them and you need information about them, you actually have to click on those because the default setting on the website is to show the challenge information, which is the group I'm talking to right now. So everything in red, that's what you want to kind of aim for. This website has everything and anything you need to get you through the season. It has the link to the YouTube videos. It's got a link to the robot game rulebook. It's got a link to the engineering notebooks, the team meeting guides. It's all here in a redundant but very concise form. So really, this is my first place I go to everything First Lego League. The document that I will stand on my soapbox and yell from the mountaintop that every team must read is the Robot Game Rulebook. This rulebook describes all of the mission models, the rules for them, and what is allowed during our robot game matches. We are assuming, dangerously by us, that every team has read this. Now, who should read this is, well, everybody. Coaches, you should at least read through it once to know what's in there. But really, have the students really look at it carefully. They need to be the experts on the missions. So they're the ones that really should be looking through this carefully. You just need to know what information's in there and to reference it to the team. But this is, of all the documents out there, the most important one, because it really highlights everything about the robot game, and it does to some point touch on some of the other elements tied into the project. So make sure everyone has a chance to look at this. This is available on the website. You can do this as a PDF, but do make sure you have gone through this with your team. Inside that document, inside that robot game rulebook, it'll talk about the generic rules for all of the robot game matches. When are you allowed to touch the robot? Where do you launch it from? What parts are allowed on the robot? How is that robot going to be scored at the end of the match? All of that is described in this document. So we really want our teams to become experts in this so they can get the most out of the events. If they come into the events a little confused, they might come out a little disappointed because they thought one rule would work in a certain way, when in fact the rule book states very clearly it doesn't work that way. So we do want to make sure everyone has an understanding of the rules so they can have the most fun at the competitions. So please start early, refer to often, and keep studying this rule book throughout the season, because it really will help your team get the most out of it. It is the definitive resource for describing the missions themselves. So it will describe how the missions are set up, how they are scored, what counts for points, what counts for partial points, what counts for full points. It's all laid out in this one document. So again, when you get to the competition and you're wondering why you didn't get points for a mission, it could be our referees made a mistake. It happens. But then you have some knowledge to have a discussion to try to convince them that you actually understand the rules better. But you really need to become an expert in that rule book first. And so do make sure you study it and work your way through it. If you are following the team meeting guide, that document I described earlier, or equivalently the engineering notebook, it will tell you when to build the mission models during the season. Well, I should say it will suggest when you should build them. And the answer is you don't do them all up front, is that you will spread out the mission model builds as you go through the first few meetings with your team. Couple of big things about that. First off, as you notice when you get your box, there's a whole bunch of numbered bags in it. Make sure your team builds the bag number for the mission. We have a lot of teams who open up all the Legos at once, throw them in a big pile, and that just slows the process down. So, that's one of our little tidbits of best practices. Make sure that you kind of open the bag that's appropriate for that mission. The other big thing here is let the kids do this. This is a great team building experience, is they should be working together to build those mission models. You as a coach, look over the shoulder and make sure they did it right. Do a quality control for your missions, because when you get to the competitions, you're going to see the exact same mission models that we provide in that case. But you'll see the exact same mission models following the same instructions you did. So do make sure your missions are built correctly. The place you get the instructions for the mission model builds is that first LEGO League website. If you were to scroll down in there, one of the sections in there is titled Mission Model Building Instructions. If you click on the View button, it opens up and expands out, and what you then have are direct links to PDF files that explain how to build each of the bags. Do recognize that a few bags are unnumbered. Those bags are shared across multiple missions, so you will have to use those occasionally throughout building all the bags. But again, try to only open up the bag number for the mission you're working on. It's just a great piece of advice. The other thing I want to point you to is this is a location if you happen to be missing a piece. Double, triple, quadruple check. LEGO is usually really, really good about packing every piece you need. But on the rare case that LEGO does not, I would first suggest you go buy a lottery ticket because you're really lucky. And then there's a phone number there to call Lego to get a replacement piece. And so there's where you get the information if you do need to get a replacement part for your team. Any questions about those team-driven resources? Man, the chat is just blowing up. I love it. This is the way this should work. This is so awesome. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish out our Coaches Corner talking about what's your to-do list as a coach moving forward over the next few weeks. First off, I almost said, first off, you need to pay us in some sense. So I do need to clarify this because, again, this is one of the sticking points. There are two firsts involved. There is first headquarters, which you pay $250 registration fee. That makes your team official. That gets them access to the materials. That gets them a team number. That gets them in the system so that we know to contact and work with you. We are a separate nonprofit organization. We don't get money from First. We have to fundraise ourselves. And one of the ways we do this is we charge our teams a season fee. So we use the two different terms there. There's a registration fee to First. There's a season fee to First Nevada. Our season fee for First Lego League Challenge is $150. We use that season fee to pay for things like our workshops, our equipment, paying our custodians when we have to rent out a venue. So that's where the money goes to. Teams only need to pay one fee, and it covers everything for you to participate in any workshop you want to participate in a qualifying tournament. And if you do move on to a state championship, it covers you for that. So one flat season fee covers everything to support you to get you all the way through the state championship. If you're one of those teams that do make it on past Nevada competing, you'll then have to pay an additional registration fee to whatever event you participate in afterwards. I bring this up now because invoices are going to be heading to your mailbox soon. If you are a Tesla or Nevada Department of Education sponsored team, you don't have to do anything about it. Lonnie Pavlik will be taking care of it, and you'll just get a notice saying it had been paid for. That's part of your sponsorship. If you are not being supported by Tesla or the NDE, you will be receiving an invoice for that $150. We do need to have that payment done well ahead of you participating in a tournament. So just notice you will be getting a bill, if you will, for $150. That bill is for First Nevada. Again, that's different than the registration fee. That is for First Nevada. So just be on the lookout for it. They should be heading out, I was told, end of this week or early next week. So don't be surprised when they show up. So I just want to cover that. Next thing I want to talk about is what Jenny had touched on earlier. You are now welcome to go out and start registering for your preferred qualifiers. We have dates and locations on the calendar. So what you'll do is you'll go to our dynamic calendar at the firstnevada.org website, click on the event you're interested in. And as I have here, the example for the December 9th event in Las Vegas, the pop-up window will include a little link to Eventbrite. We are testing out Eventbrite this year, so bear with us. When you click on that link, you'll be taken to yet another website that'll allow you to register for that event. One of the nice things about Eventbrite is it's able to track how many teams have signed up for that event. So we're able to cap the maximum size of that event. So there is some onus and some kind of fire under you to pick your event early, because if it does fill up, then you have to go to another event. So we do want you to register as soon as possible. And in fact, I put the scrimmage on there, and Jenny's raising her hand. I guessed the scrimmage. Is that okay, or do you want to adjust that, Jenny? Go ahead.
No, I don't know what you're saying about the scrimmage actually, but I just wanted
using as a deadline for when they need to register for the qualifiers.
Oh yeah, no, that's perfect. But there were a few questions in the chat, and I just wanted to make sure that the group knew that there has been a change since registration opened. So the event the qualifier that was going to be on the 9th has now moved. The venues swapped, the 9th and the 16th. And so it was going to be the 9th at Sunrise Mountain and the 16th at Desert Oasis. And now it's going to be the 9th at Desert Oasis and the 16th at Sunrise Mountain. So go ahead, and if you've already registered for one of those events, go talk to your teams and decide if the location matters or if the date matters more to you. And if you need to change events, then just you guys should be able to cancel your registration in Eventbrite and enroll in the new event if necessary.
Very good. And I do want to emphasize, we really need all of our teams to register by November 4th, because we do need to make sure that we have the right number of teams going to the right event. We want to make sure all of our teams have the opportunity to select the event they want, and we may have to do follow-up communication. So we really can't go up to the last minute, especially considering that Thanksgiving is right before our qualifiers. So we do have time to spend with our families as well. So please talk with your teams and try to figure out which event is best for your location.
Hey, Rubo?
Yes.
We have a raised hand from Cassandra.
Yeah.
Cassandra, you should be able to unmute yourself and ask the question.
Please do.
Hi, Mr. Rubio, Ms.
Hey.
Jeannie, how are you?
Good.
I was one of the ones that was overly eager, and I did register my team, but I did it for all 10 tickets. Can you correct that, or is there a way I can go back in and correct those tickets?
I
So
do
you can
believe,
correct
No problem.
that. Okay, thank you.
I do believe we corrected it on our end. I think we caught it. You weren't the only one. Let's put it that way. You were not the only one that did that. And it was, as Jenny was pointing out earlier, a little it was confusing how that was meant to be. So no worries there. And we did catch a couple of teams. And I think, Jenny, we've cleaned it all up on our end already, haven't we? Yeah. She's not a yes. Good. Other action item is just to remind you, we do have those workshops coming up. The first one is the Robot in a Day one. So Elko, I know I put it on here for completeness. We've already done the Elko one, which it sounded like was a great success. And I do want to thank Renee, if she's on here, for running that. Congratulations. I heard it was wonderful, so good job. We do have this weekend. We have Reno and Las Vegas doing our Robot in a Day. You'll notice there's an October 21st one for Las Vegas. I do want to say that one is a repeat one. It's a identical repeat of September 23rd. It is meant for our teams who are registering late. So we are still accepting teams registering right now. We want to make sure that they have the opportunity to catch up. Do not take that later one. If you're a registered team ready to go, do the earlier one. That later one is meant for our teams that are registering in late September, early October, more so. And the other reason you want to not do the late one is the other workshop we have registration open for is our next level programming workshop. This is only a half-day workshop. We only go in the morning hours. You'll notice that it's in October 7th for Reno and Las Vegas and October 21st for Elko. This workshop assumes your team has already built its robot. So you can understand why a robot in a day after this workshop wouldn't make sense. So during the next level programming workshop is we take that built robot you now have and we dive a little deeper into how you might program it, and in fact start thinking about using your sensors. How do the sensors work? How are the different ways to turn it? And we still work on solving a mission through this workshop.
Hey, Rubo?
Yeah.
Looks like we have another hand raised. Elizabeth,
Okay.
you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm seeing an illustration on the screen here of the advanced build for the robot. Do we need to have the advanced build to do the next level programming, or could it be the simpler one?
For the next level programming, the slides will default assumption that you did the advanced driving base, but you will you can still get a ton out of that workshop, even if you're not using that robot. And we'll talk about how you make adjustments, because one of the things we are going to encourage as you come back over and over is that your team really should design its own robot. You do not have to build that robot. But for the workshop, I just put it in there as the default so we all have a thought that we can share together. But if your team has a different robot, come out anyways, and you'll easily see the translation between the two. Yeah.
We're having our first meeting tomorrow night, so
awesome.
Chances of us getting anything built before the 6th of October are slim, but we're going to give it a go.
Come to that robot in a day if you can. And remember,
I have a funeral to go to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, yeah.
But our slides for the workshop is available as well. for the robot in a day. So
And
you're
I went
welcome.
this summer to the training for it. So
That's yep. And so you saw
All right,
it's the
super.
same
Thank
robot.
you.
Well, yep. And my last reminder is you will have received and will continue to receive throughout the season these monthly coach check-in questionnaires. And I do kind of plead with you to take the 5 minutes to fill them out. These coach questionnaires really do feedback to us in terms of what are the adjustments we need to make? What are the things I need to make sure I cover in coaches' corners? What are the adjustments we need to make in terms of our personnel helping you out? So we really do value that feedback. Like I said, it was this sort of feedback that caused us to introduce the Innovation Project Coaches Clinic this year. So this is your opportunity to tell us where you are. If we get a lot of stressed out responses, then we might step it up and introduce, some way to mitigate that. So definitely just take 5 minutes and fill those out. They do mean a lot to us. They're not just busy work. So please, do follow up on that. Well, that was all I have for tonight, which almost took us to the hour, but I am welcome, open up the floor. If you want to continue asking questions in the chat, please do. If you want to ask them through mic, you're welcome to unmute yourself, ask away. I'll stay here until we can wrap up all the questions so everyone has got their questions answered. So the floor is now yours. Boom, boom. Actually, I'm going to open the queue and see. We'll put these in order of the hands going up. Hopefully I say it. Halea, is that how you say it? Halea, do you want to go first? Halea?
Yes, Luis, Hale. Thank you very much for organizing this meeting. And I do have question, which I also put it in the chat. So 23rd, it's this coming Saturday. So I'm going to be with my team at the venue until noon. But then I would like two other parents that already passed their background check with our school to come with the students and take over. I have 7 students, and 2 of those parents are willing to help me out. Is that fine for the 23rd?
Yeah, and so that's a good question. Actually, we've had that a couple of times come through by email, so let me address this. In general, like last year, if you were with us in Las Vegas, we were crammed into that robot in a day. We did not have space at all. And we did have to limit the number of adults that were attending with their team. Registration right now is kind of tracking what we hoped for, and that was one of the other reasons we introduced a second robot in a day. So parents, they're definitely, we understand we're dealing with younger kids. So they're welcome to come along. Do recognize on the spot, we may have to ask them to kind of sit in a certain location off to the side so that we have enough room to get in and out of the aisles to work with the teams. But for right now, we don't see any strict limitation that would prevent the coaches of parents from being there. And definitely in your situation, it's very much they're welcome to. As you're going to find out, to really survive and not go crazy yourself as a coach, get other adults involved with the team. And that might be parents. So they're very much welcome to come out.
That will be perfect. And I would like to know if I would like to have one of them as the mentor. And on November 4th, that it's the scrimmage, can they come instead of me as the mentor?
Yeah, so we do require all our teams have an adult mentor, chaperone, if you will, there. We're dealing with young ages. We do need to have an adult there. Preferably, it'd be someone who kind of understands at least the minimum of First Lego League. But we understand that we built a calendar that doesn't necessarily agree with your calendar. And so if you do need to have a substitute parent, that's quite all right. We want to make sure the kids have the opportunity. So definitely we'll work with you on that. Yeah.
How long would it take if I put the mentor today, for example? Do we need like a week to have those mentor to be registered as mentor?
No, I mean, so they'll go through the same YPP screening, which is hopefully 48 hours-ish, give or take.
Okay.
Fingers crossed on that one. And usually the rule of any parent that works with the team more than 30% of the time, we ask that they go through the screening process. And that is a rule of thumb. That isn't a strict limit. Yeah.
The
And then
YPP process can take a few more days than that. So just
Is it now?
I would register.
yeah, 48 is the best case scenario. Yeah, I mean,
guess I'm
probably
doing
more like 5 days and maybe sometimes 2 weeks. But yeah, I mean, I would say go ahead and put them in as soon as possible. And when they, pass, they pass. But at least they will be listed in the system, even if they're not fully, registered or accepted yet. Look like Kimberly was the next person in line with her hand raised.
And I'm going to cut Kimberly. I'm hoping she's not asking me about the paperwork I owe her.
No,
Kimberly, definitely ask him about the paperwork.
Have you completed the paperwork you owe me?
It's tomorrow, I promise.
It's fine.
Well, no, let's say.
I don't even know, I don't even know if my office manager knows, what I told her that I said it to you, and I was like, I don't know much else about it besides I sent him that he needed to fill it out. With that in mind, if you can update the event, I think, I know it's from 9 to noon. I think my principal is going to open up our student snack shack to try to fundraise money. So we'll have some snacks and some soda and water on that day to sell. Everything's like $1 or $2 ish, but try to raise some money for my robotics team so we can.
What's the date of yours, Kimberly? So I can send out an email.
October 7th. I'm the next level programming.
Okay.
Yep.
And our beautiful new building.
Yep. Just so everybody else kind of understands the conversation, Kimberly is one of our veteran coaches who last year attended our workshops. Veteran, I'm still calling you veteran.
Second year.
And she offered her school to host a workshop this year. And so, as she said, one of our workshops coming up is at her school, and they're going to use it as a fundraising process. So anyone on here, if you want to have a workshop at your school next year, just let us know. Yeah, it saves us a lot of time. So go ahead, Kim. Do you have another question?
Yes, my other question was, so since I am a second-year team, we never took apart our robot from last year. So it's still put together, but I still signed up for us to come because I only have one student returning from last year. So I feel like my team needs to go. Is it okay that our robot is still put together? I mean, we might change out some things and definitely maybe some different attachments now that we've put together a lot of the missions and they are totally different than what we had last year. Or should I have them take apart more of the robot so we can use it and put it together?
That's a great question. I actually heard Caroline asked me a similar one in the north. Personally, I would suggest take it apart so the new kids have the experience of building it. And they understand, and what will happen is they have more ownership of that robot when they build it themselves. Even though it might be the same exact robot from the previous year, they will then say that is now our robot, and they will know where they can make the adjustments and changes to it. And then also you'll get more of an experience this week. I think I saw you on the roster for the Saturday coming in, right? Yes, sir. So to get more of that morning, those morning hours, I would suggest. And now in this case, as a coach, you're welcome to take it apart yourself. It takes 10-ish minutes to give or take to take it apart. And I would just suggest it just because I said the kids, I think, will own it more if they do it. And it would be the best suggestion there. Yep. Good. Any other questions?
Not for me right now, except get my paperwork filled out so that way I'm in compliance with the district. I don't want them yelling at me.
Oh, I know. Cassandra?
My last question is, I just signed up for this Saturday's workshop, but it was a Google form, not Eventbrite. Is that the correct thing?
That is correct. And I haven't looked at the roster since early afternoon, so I do need to double check. Yep.
Yeah, I just did it.
Okay, good. Yeah, I will have to. I sent out an email to coaches who had already signed up, and so that's a good reminder to me to follow up tomorrow and Thursday to catch anybody else.
Cassandra, the Google Forms are still being used for the workshops, but for the qualifiers, we've switched all of those to Eventbrite. But Rubo's running the workshops and he's using Google Forms still because it's simple and easy to put out. But the problem that I had with the qualifiers last year is just making sure that you guys could see your own registration, since you could only register for one, and being able to switch registrations if necessary. And Eventbrite gives you that opportunity. And Google Forms, you didn't have that available. So that's why we're still using Google Forms for workshops and Eventbrite for the registrations.
Plus, I was lazy because I had the Google Forms from last year, so I just copied them. So, yeah, that too. Cheryl, what was your question?
Just a quick question. Last year we received 12 of the engineering notebooks and 12 of the robot game rule books.
Right.
And this year I just received 2 of each. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So what happened last year is, are you a Tesla sponsored team by chance, I'm guessing?
I think we are.
Well, because what happened last year is we actually had some extra funding, and every team gets 2 engineering notebooks to start with. And what happened was with that extra funding, we bought the teams the remaining 10-ish. So you had plenty of hard copies. That this year we don't have that same funding because we are ending the Tesla education investment, and so our funding isn't the same there this year. So yeah, you should have only received 2 of them. The good news is they are freely available in digital format.
Yeah, I heard that tonight. That's why I said it.
I believe I have to double check. They also have a PDF fillable form version as well. Yeah. So yeah, you only were supposed to get just 2 this year. Good question. Patsy?
I was just wondering if anybody had suggestions on like good places I can get t-shirts, or if anybody had experience with like using a Cricut to make the team t-shirts. Last year we started so late that my team didn't have anything and everybody else looked so good. So I was wondering if anyone had any suggestions or recommendations for like a Cricut or a place I can place an order.
I have experience with both. I can send you 2 places that I just got quotes from for my team's t-shirts if you'd prefer to make them. And then using the Cricut, I mean, it'd be great if you have a parent that is wanting to do it, but I wouldn't put that on your plate. It's a lot of work. Okay. And your kids are probably like not at the age to be able to do it all themselves. So I wouldn't put that on your own plate.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Can I just put my email in the chat then?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for that.
Or I'll throw mine in the chat. You can shoot me an email.
Oh, perfect. All right, thank you.
Jenny, if you can send me or keep me in that conversation, I'll post it on Facebook too, because she's not the only one with that question. So I'll make sure the Facebook group gets it as well. Julie, I see your hand is up.
Hi, I had asked this question in the chat and it was hard to keep up. I don't think it was answered, but it may have been. I feel like I'm receiving a lot of emails regarding updates, and I've been trying to print them and put them in a binder and look through them, but I'm sure there's a link where all of this is posted. Can you give that link?
Yes. Now, when you say updates, there could be 2 different versions of it. Are you talking about updates to events, or are you talking about updates to the challenge itself?
To the challenge itself.
Okay, yes, there is one centralized link. I'm betting, Scott, you almost got it in there for me. There is, and every year this happens. So it's interesting backstory as someone, I'm waiting for someone to put this link in there. There it is. First takes multiple years to develop each of these challenges, these games. And so they freeze out early on in the spring, I think it is, when they do this document. Because one of the major things they have to do is they have to translate it into other languages. And of course, once the teams get a hold of it, they get all kinds of little loopholes and new questions that nobody thought of at first. And so they have to do updates. Every year, they always have a singular document that catches and categorizes those updates. They are, I want to say, official rules. So do make sure the teams have read through them. So if there is a way a particular mission is supposed to be scored, or an interpretation and innovation project, we do refer to those as official rulings. So all the teams should look them over. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I don't see any other hands up, but please, if you have any more questions, unmute yourself, ask away, or throw them in the chat. Go ahead, Leah.
I received that email for the basically the grants that you're giving it away for, and I requested some help for the building models because we might need some tools to purchase to build our models. Is it going to be part of that grant to receive, or no, we don't receive that?
So that grant, are you talking about the one, what is it, Gene Haas grant?
I think the category was if we need transportation, if we need help with it. There was a list about.
Yes. So we're going through those now. The grant application time is closed, and we're reviewing those now, and we're prioritizing the teams based on their needs and what we know in terms of their other support. And so teams should be notified of that shortly. I don't want to give you a specific date and time, but we are reviewing those. I know it's in my inbox as well to review some of them. So yeah, and those funds are unrestricted, so you can decide how your team wants to use them based on how you applied for the money. Yeah.
Yeah, I just applied for purchasing tools to build the model.
Okay.
Yes, so thank you so much.
Yep. Julie?
Hi. So my team is signed up to go to the Robot in a Day workshop this Saturday. I had applied for the Nevada Department of Education grant, and so I'm supposed to get 2 laptops, but they haven't arrived and probably won't in time. So my question is, I can check out iPads at my school. My students have Chromebooks. Which one would be better? And if it's a Chromebook, are they just going to use the web version of the Lego app, or should I have my computer guy put the actual app on?
So I'm glad you brought that up. So all of our really rookie teams, literally this is your first year and you're supported by the ND. And if you requested the laptops, tomorrow is my final deadline to the teams who haven't filled out the form. Then I'm going to go out and purchase them. Hopefully they're in the mail in a week or two. Of course, that won't solve the question you had about the robot a day, but I want to give you some level of timeline of what you should expect. We are going to place those orders this week, and they're in stock, so hopefully they leave the warehouse quickly. For this weekend, I know in the South, we're going to be bringing, for Las Vegas, we're going to be bringing a couple of First Nevada laptops to loan out for those rookie teams because we understand your situation. Scott, are you going to be able to do that? Caroline, are you going to be able to bring some in the North?
Yeah, we absolutely can bring a few extras for the North, and hopefully you guys can in the South too.
Yeah.
I did want to respond to, I guess, the first part of her question where she asked, iPad versus Chromebook.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, if there's school equipment and they're school controlled, one of the common issues is that you can't, install anything on any school device if it's locked down by your IT department, which is pretty common. So just bear that in mind. And then the other part of the question, which I appreciate you asking, web versus, installed locally on the device, definitely do not use the web version. It is possible to save out of the web version, but it doesn't happen automatically the way it does on a school device, on a physical device where it's installed locally, where it automatically, saves there. And depending on what type of Chromebook you're talking about, some Chromebooks, only can install things like apps, even if they are unlocked by the school. In theory, it can run on that device. There is a version, there you can get from the store that would run. But yeah, of those two options, I'd probably take the iPad over the Chromebook if I were picking. But definitely something local, where it's locally installed and would save the files that the kids are working on there. Like say anything that's kind of cloud-based, including the web version of the Spike app, probably isn't a great choice for competitive teams. I think Lego has that option available for hobbyists and people who are just playing around, but it's not a great choice for Lego teams that want to be able to keep track of their programming. By the way, we ran into an interesting situation at the Robot in a Day in Elko this past Saturday, which I had not seen before. Like it's probably not uncommon. Not only was the device locked down, which I was able to get around, it was a Windows device because they hadn't locked down the Microsoft Store, so we got it on the device. But we found that it also was set up in such a way you could not store any files locally. So basically, the device could only be used in essence on network, on the school's network, and only then it would save to a network drive. You could not store a file locally on the computer. So each time the kids were doing it, they were losing that information if they were remote, like we were at the workshop where they weren't on their home school's network. So those are the types of things, unfortunately, you may have to work out with your IT department to make sure that the devices you're using, one, that the app can be installed locally, and two, that the IT department understands it's important that the files from that can be saved on the device. So not only when they go to workshop, but when they go to the qualifier or something like that, if the kids want to make an update to that, program, they have the ability to do that because they have it with them locally. So yeah, just some good points raised by that question.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands up. Does anybody else have a question? Not hearing or seeing any. Then let's call it an evening. I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you all the First Nevada people for jumping in, answering questions. Thank you all the coaches for coming out on this Tuesday night. Hopefully we'll see a lot of you this weekend in the coming weeks at our workshops and in 1 month when we do this again as another Coaches Corner. So appreciate your time. Thank you everyone, and we'll see you soon.